Full spoilers for the T'Challa episode of What If. I have just learned a terrible truth. I think T'Challa is a Star-Lord. A Star-Lord? What if we didn't recycle an MCU movie beat for beat, and instead used the multiverse concept to tell an interesting story all its own with diverging threads? Ooh. Well, you wouldn't have Captain Carter, but you would have this week's episode. What if T'Challa became Star-Lord? I mean, what if T'Challa became a Star-Lord? Weird. This episode was much better than last week. Even though the spectacle wasn't quite up to par, I think the story and characterisation was much more interesting, and it struck a chord at the heart of the premise that we were promised.
Is your destiny determined by your nature? Or by the nature of your world?
The episode is not without its problems, but I found it far more entertaining as an overall package. The spectacle might not be quite as fluid and satisfying this time around, but that's because the efforts have been focused on characterisation and dialing into what it really means to change the destinies of key MCU favourites. Right from the off, it's clear that this episode is going to be way more liberal with the alternate reality versions of the cast.
Oh, Star-Lord! Who?
The pacing that gave everyone whiplash last week is nowhere to be found, even though this episode is roughly only a minute longer. That's thanks to a plot that does its own thing with the mythology of both Black Panther and Guardians, stopping you from consciously thinking about what part of a live-action 2-hour movie we're supposed to be in. T'Challa Star-Lord was actually really awesome. I was of course fully expecting the late great Chadwick Boseman to deliver an entertaining performance as Star-Lord, but I didn't expect the blend of the two aesthetics to work quite so well.
You know as well as I, no treasure is worth as much as the good that can be done with it.
T'Challa embracing the role of a Ravager and becoming like a sort of spacefaring Robin Hood makes sense for the character we know in the MCU, whilst also opening up this story to a whole host of possibilities.
Oh, we should take another one.
It also feels like it runs parallel to the ending of Black Panther, with T'Challa abandoning Wakanda's isolationist policies in favour of opening themselves up to the world.
Who?
Who are you?
This is the kind of thought that goes into crafting a what-if character that makes me believe they are the same person, only with a different story. It makes sense that this version of T'Challa would be benevolent from the off.
That world has nothing to offer Wakanda.
There must be more.
The wise build bridges, while the foolish build barriers.
Knowing that he would later open up Wakanda to the rest of the world, it seems appropriate that young T'Challa is asking his father about what lies beyond Wakanda's walls as early as 1988.
I am tired of living in a bubble. There's an entire world out there, Baba.
Peter Quill is a lovable moron, and that makes sense in the context of his story.
Dude, don't call us plucky. We don't know what it means.
He is a working class kid who is abducted without finishing any kind of formal education.
Star-Lord.
Oh, sorry, Lord.
T'Challa is a prince who is already out of the ordinary. He's already way more skilled and has way more knowledge than an average kid.
You sure don't seem too freaked out about all this, kid.
And this time Yondu didn't abduct Star-Lord, he went willingly, which from the off gives us a load of different possibilities for the conflict and relationship between Yondu and T'Challa versus Yondu and Peter Quill.
Lie to me! Sometimes you need to hear a lie to see the truth. And for people like you, like us, the past ain't nothing but a prison.
If you are out there, you are one bright, burning light in the night sky of billions.
You don't belong down there with them, you belong up here with us.
I liked how he lied to T'Challa about the Wakandans being wiped out, only to find out that they're alive and well and even searching for him, only for Yondu to hit back and say that he never wanted that life and that he chose to come away with them. It was a nice little spin on something we've already seen before, and I like that it kind of resolved nicely in that Yondu got to live. His personality, knowledge and expertise dictate that he would go down a completely different path with Yondu and the Ravagers versus the story we know in the Guardians movies. So it makes sense that he combines Wakandan acrobatics and agility with the Star-Lord tech we already know and love.
Oh, you got?
Woo! I haven't seen a knee that sweet since, well, I thought this whole T'Challa Star-Lord thing was going to be weird and not work so well, but it turns out ripping him away from Wakanda and showing what sort of man he is without the nation was inspired, and using the Guardians aesthetic to tell it made it really all the better. We've never gotten to see what a spacefaring Wakanda would be like, or the sort of man T'Challa would be if he didn't have the responsibilities of becoming a king.
Should I not use the gun?
Go ahead.
Really?
Please.
No, it's not a problem. I could get rid of it.
Go ahead, use the gun.
Oh, that is so generous of you.
Koraf's characterization was great, taking the classic
Who?
gag and flipping on its head. That would have worked for just a one-off gag with him fanboying over Star-Lord, but then they take it to another degree where he joins the team and he continues to fanboy over him, and it's just funny watching them fight and hearing him say like, "Oh yeah, great shot, sir, fantastic."
You do not disappoint my lord, so live so pride. Oh, my lord! I didn't mean to.
That is what we're here for.
It's a funny gag that doesn't outstay its welcome, and it kind of reminds me of the character Zero in John Wick 3.
Hey, John. That was a pretty good fight, huh?
Yeah.
Again, Drax was used perfectly, just a sweet little cameo of an alternate world where he gets to be a happy bartender with his wife and child, and you know, it was used for a great gag. Like, if you ever wanted to see T'Challa and Drax interact and you didn't get it unfortunately in live action, here's your moment.
You look terrible. I look great.
Overall, I just feel like the deviations in this story have a lot more fun with themselves and make more sense for the characters and the events that we already know, as opposed to last week's episode, which really just kind of palette swaps Steve for Peggy within the same story. However, there is one what if that I thought was a what if too far, and that is, of course, Thanos. Before I talk about the Mad Titan, this is just a quick reminder to please subscribe if you like the video and want to support me in making more. Thank you. If I could be extra cheeky, then please follow me on my digital art page at full_fat_videos. I've done a live action T'Challa, Star-Lord and Captain Carter so far, and I'm planning to do more what if characters. I hated pretty much everything with Thanos in this episode, and I funnily enough, I feel how a lot of people felt about the Infinity Stones popping up in Loki.
What?
The reason why it works for me in Loki with the Infinity Stones is because we're in this sort of like Kafkaesque, weird, alternate, magical world, and the TVA are established as being, you know, the most powerful beings in the universe, and them collecting Infinity Stones both shows their power but also shows how they don't care for the trivial matters of all the characters Loki has met up until that point. Like, you thought collecting the Infinity Gauntlet was this big galaxy-ending thing, but it turns out it's only like apocalyptic for the little people in this world, a la the Avengers and the Guardians of the Galaxy. For like an organisation as mighty as the TVA, and eventually we discover Kang, it's small fry stuff. So I actually think that works really well within the magical reality that Loki is trying to create. But with this, with Thanos, it's like, yeah, I like the idea that in an alternate world, maybe he could even be a good guy, but I feel like it works much better as a throwaway gag that we don't have to see or think too much about. If someone had just said to T'Challa, "Oh, are you the guy that like had that debate with Thanos and got him to think about his genocide differently?" Yes, it was actually me. I am indeed that charming. Like, I feel like that would have been the sort of gag that would have made me go, "Oh, that's funny. I love the idea that he would just have a debate with Thanos and convince him not to snap his fingers and wipe out half of reality." But actually seeing the character and having him sit down with the rest of the gang and like vibe and chill, like just doesn't quite sit right with me. To have Thanos join the team as any other heavy that gets his ass kicked for the team just really diminishes his power and his feeling of invincibility that they built up so well for literally a decade of MCU stories.
Get to the ship!
Are you crazy? You'll never take them yourself.
What do you mean? He's Thanos! He's Hulk tier. He's one of the most durable, unstoppable. He's one of the strongest characters in the MCU. He's beyond Hulk tier. He messed up Thor, Loki, Heimdall, and the Hulk in the first 10 minutes of Infinity War, and he didn't even use the gauntlet. And now you're trying to tell me that 2 members of the Black Order can hand his arse to him on a platter with relish? No, that doesn't make sense. I don't buy that 4 members of the Black Order could take down Thanos. And yeah, maybe the fact that he's gone straight, maybe he's lost his edge, maybe that's kind of what they're going for. But I just think ultimately it takes away his edge across every MCU appearance, not just this one.
I will shred this universe down to its last atom.
He's not a character like T'Challa who's on the audience's side, who we could see go through deviations. He's the boogeyman. He's the emperor of the MCU. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's the big bad that we should always feel afraid and intimidated by. Even if he becomes a story of legend. Do you know what I mean? Even if we never see Thanos again and characters always refer to the events of Infinity War and Endgame, blah, 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 blah. I just feel like he should never become a joke.
My friend, that sounds an awful lot like genocide.
No, because it's random.
But it's not just Thanos that has this kind of weird power scaling in the episode. The Black Order can take on Thanos 1 minute, and then the next Nebula is tearing holes in them, making donuts out of them with a pistol. Korath was established in the first Guardians of the Galaxy as being like supremely strong, or at least stronger than an average creature, definitely super strong and super fast compared to an ordinary man like Peter Quill. Which meant that he couldn't face him head on in a one-to-one fight. He had to run away or outthink the situation. It's only later on that Korath comes face to face with Drax, a character who is also super strong, that they have a one-on-one fight and he beats him.
Finger to the throat means death.
So you establish in that movie that Korath, you know, he's no easy customer. He packs a wallop. And then in this, ordinary man T'Challa just has a fist fight with him, and Korath straight up punches him in the face, and it doesn't split his skull in two.
Yeah, hit me.
Even with all the skills and expertise T'Challa has learnt and picked up over the years, both from Wakanda and from spacefaring, I still don't believe he'd be able to be punched in the face by Korath and be absolutely fine. And like, yeah, the scene works in the context of its own story, but I just find it weird that you're going into incredibly descriptive detail on things like that's the moment where Peggy decided to open the floodgates on a new universe, and all these tiny granular things. But then something big like that, like Korath's abilities, you just completely change and there's no explanation. Like, why isn't he super strong anymore? This happened again in Loki with all the regular humans that Sylvie kept taking over that could have a fight with Tom Hiddleston's Loki, who is supposed to be like bulletproof and able to take on Captain America.
Come on. This guy packs a wallop. I don't remember it being that easy.
They seem to have just forgotten the things they've set up in previous movies. I guess maybe it's a symptom of the fact that the MCU is getting a bit long in the tooth now. There's so much content that we're going to start having inconsistencies a la something like Doctor Who, which, you know, in its plus 50, almost 60-year history, has so many inconsistencies. So really, Korath's power scaling is just the tip of the iceberg. And maybe you're thinking, well, it doesn't matter, this is its own thing. Well, if you're going to make a big deal out of every minute change in this what-if world, including narration to really hammer it home, it seems strange to then take a bunch of characters' strengths and capabilities and just throw them all out the window. I don't think this is just like a little fanboy complaint, because I think it would tie into the story better. T'Challa is a character that we know to be super strong and super fast and is basically like super soldier tier. So what happens in a storyline where he's just as smart and capable, but he no longer has any of that super strength?
The strength of the Black Panther stripped away.
The MCU Black Panther could have a fist fight with Korath, but this T'Challa can't. Whoop, bye! Of course, because we only have 30 minutes for this episode, he takes him out and we swiftly move on. And a good example of what I'm talking about is in this very episode. Ebony Maw is a telekinetic who probably would still beat Black Panther in a fight, but Black Panther without his powers, that's a no-go. So how does he get out of it? Well, with his ability to inspire people.
I liked that thing you said about not locking people in cages.
Thus, the heart of the original kingly character is present in this scene. The king is still in there, even though he's now a lord.
A lord? It is not an official title, nor is it one I am comfortable with.
Of course you would be humble.
And he hasn't relied on his strength or punching his way out, as with the Korath scene earlier. Thanos and Nebula being on the same side as well doesn't sit right with me. Even though this is an alternate reality, I still feel like every What If episode is in dialogue with the original MCU. And when you have a character like Nebula who has been eternally abused by her father,
Thanos pulled my eye from my head, and my brain from my skull, and my arm from my body. You can change. He won't let me.
And a lot of the damage is still unresolved and is something that we probably want to see in Guardians Volume 3. I just think it's odd and cheapens that relationship.
Aye, aye, Commander.
When T'Challa tells Nebula that Thanos really has changed, she replies with a flippant, "The
past doesn't."
Which implies that they've still got a load of old wounds that they need to patch up and there's still a lot of bad blood between them. So you can't just then have them running around doing hijinks. It doesn't address that past relationship in any meaningful way, which makes it feel like you should just cut Thanos out of it. Or Nebula, one of the two. I would personally keep in Nebula. Goodbye Thanos, you got dusted. Stay in Endgame where you belong. He's gonna show up in Eternals, isn't he? Oh, just don't need it. Just don't need it. I also have a lot of questions with the setup for this episode. It makes sense to me that the Ravagers would pick up T'Challa based on, you know, a big cosmic signal emitting from that corner of the Earth and them thinking, oh, it must be Peter Quill. It's a bit of a stretch, but I can go with it for the purposes of this episode. But what I do think is weird is that they then pick up T'Challa, Yondu's like, this ain't the kid we want, and then they just blast off and don't finish the job? Why? Yondu was fully prepared to abduct Peter Quill, why didn't he go through with it? I kind of thought because they had such a healthy relationship at the start of the episode, we were going to find out that Yondu indeed finished the job, and in this reality, he took Peter Quill straight to Ego, Ego murders him, and then we were going to have, like, the fallout of that, of T'Challa finding out, you know, Yondu's not the good father he thought he was, he's not the person who is reformed. Turns out he did do a terrible thing, and now we're going to find out about the cost of that. I still like that we got to see Peter Quill at the end, working like a Burger King, or is it a Dairy Queen, something like that. I think it's interesting to see where that storyline is going to go. It seems like it's going to get picked up in a later What If episode. It would be cool if T'Challa Star-Lord faced like an all-powerful, celestial, empowered Peter Quill who embraces his dark destiny alongside his father.
You shouldn't have killed my mom and squished my Walkman.
I don't care.
That would be a cool matchup, that'd be a cool showdown. At the same time, I think Peter Quill does kind of hang over the episode like a bit of a bad smell, because once you understand that they could have kidnapped him and they just decided not to, it's like, what? Well, what's going on over there then? I feel like the episode really just wants you to have T'Challa Star-Lord and not worry too much about it, but it's hard when, again, they go into descriptive detail about all these little deviations, but then there's like one or two massive things that never adds up in these alternate realities. I suppose you just shouldn't think about it too much and just try to enjoy yourself. If there's any problems with both Captain Carter and this episode, is that they're over way too quickly. It does seem like a lot of these characters are going to come back towards the final half of What If, so it remains to be seen how much more screen time there is for them.
The Collector is ready for you.
The Collector was a great villain for what it was, even if he sounded nothing like Benicio del Toro. Wait, that was Benicio del Toro? That did not sound like the Collector at all. Anyway, this is the kind of divergent path for a villain that makes sense, a charlatan scaredy cat in front of Thanos, but an arrogant kingpin when he has all the power. Plus seeing him try on hats is fun.
Oh, that woman has taste.
So that was the second episode of Marvel's What If. Overall definite improvement over last week's shallow effort, and I'm intrigued to see where this could be going. This short adventure reinforces all the best things about Boseman's portrayal as the King of Wakanda, whilst also giving him a chance to flex his chops and have fun with something different. It was of course not the intent to make this Chadwick's final stint as T'Challa, but it works surprisingly well as a modest swan song. I no doubt expect the most affecting tributes will unfold in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is set for release next year. Whether you're experiencing the character in live action or on screen, there is no doubt the late actor's legacy will be felt by many for a long time to come, and the body of work he has forged across his career stands as testimony to that.
Wakanda forever!
A big personal thank you to our full fat tier patrons, Dr. Chike, Jax Merrick and Cyrus Solker. Your ongoing support keeps the lights on. Until next time, keep it full fat.